The woman who destroyed him made him irresistible to every woman who came after. If you're a man who once loved with everything you had, only to be betrayed, left with silence, coldness, or replaced by someone who didn't even seem better, then this video is for you. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? How can the worst betrayal become your greatest strength? How does a man go from being completely broken, sobbing on his bathroom floor at 3 a.m., wondering why he's never enough, to walking into any room and having women gravitate toward him like he's magnetic? I'm about to reveal something most men will never discover. The most devastatingly attractive men you know weren't born confident. They were forged in heartbreak. That smooth, unshakable presence you see, it's not genetic luck or natural talent. It's scar tissue that learned to smile. Every man who seems to effortlessly command female attention carries a secret history of emotional devastation. The smoother he appears, the deeper his wounds once were, the more untouchable he seems, the more completely he was once destroyed by love. But here's what's haunting most men: never make this connection. They see the confidence and assume it was always there. They watch the ease and think it's a gift. They witness the magnetic presence and believe some men are just chosen. What they don't realize is that every master of attraction was once a victim of it. So here's the question that will change how you see every confident man you've ever envied. What if your greatest heartbreak isn't your weakness, but your hidden superpower waiting to be unlocked? In this exploration, we're going to dissect the dark psychology behind male transformation. You'll discover why the men who look effortlessly confident with women are often the ones who've been wounded the most, and how that pain becomes the very source of their power. Let me show you exactly what I mean. You're sitting in a cafe, quietly sipping your drink, and then he walks in. Not just any guy, but that guy. The one who seems to change the energy of the room without even trying. His stride is calm but commanding. His clothes are sharp, his smile subtle but dangerous. Within minutes, you can see it happening. The barista is laughing a little too hard at his jokes. A woman at the corner table suddenly adjusts her hair. Another is giving him quick, curious glances while pretending not to notice. And you sit there thinking, "Oh, how can one man make it look so easy?" It feels almost unfair, like he was born with some rare talent you'll never have. But here's the shocking truth that connects back to our opening revelation. He wasn't born with it. What you're seeing isn't natural ability. It's not genetics or luck. What you're watching is the result of scars. Scars he learned to hide so well that they now look like charm. The man who appears untouchable was once the man who got hurt the most. He was the one who believed too much, trusted too quickly, and gave far more than he received. Every smooth line, every confident smile, every subtle gesture, it's all been carved out of rejection, heartbreak, and lessons learned the hard way. Think about it like watching a professional dancer. To the audience, the movement looks effortless, as if their body was born to move that way. But behind the grace are years of repetition, mistakes, injuries, and nights spent wanting to quit. Dating mastery works the same way. What looks like magic is really practice, trial and error, and the willingness to rebuild after being broken. This is the first piece of the puzzle we opened with: how destruction becomes attraction. But to understand the full transformation, we need to go back to where it all begins. Every confident man you admire has his own private story of heartbreak. And that story follows a predictable pattern that starts with what I call the romantic refugee. Every man who seems unshakable with women usually carries a hidden past, one that looks nothing like the confidence you see today. He didn't start as the smooth talker who always knows the right thing to say. He started as the believer, the dreamer, the man who thought love was pure, simple, and guaranteed if you just gave enough of yourself. In other words, he began as what most people would call a good guy. The good guy enters relationships with the best intentions. He believes in soulmates, in happy endings, in the idea that love alone can conquer anything. He's the one who shows up early, plans the perfect date, buys the flowers, writes the long texts, and remembers every little detail that should make a woman feel special. In movies, this man gets the girl. In real life, he usually gets confused looks, polite smiles, and eventually, a broken heart. That's the first crack in his belief system. He realizes that the women he puts on pedestals often choose men who barely notice them. The ones he showers with attention are drawn to men who give them less. The relationships he invests his entire heart into often end with him being replaced by someone who seems to care half as much. The pain isn't just rejection. It's disorientation. It's that haunting feeling of, I did everything right. So why did it all go wrong? If you've ever been that person, the one who did everything right but still got it wrong, leave a comment. This story is yours. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the mental clash between what you believe and what the world shows you. For the romantic refugee, the clash becomes unbearable. He faces a brutal choice: keep believing in ideals that keep failing him, or abandon them and learn what actually works. That turning point almost always comes after what I call the final betrayal. The heartbreak so deep, it forces him to question everything. That final betrayal isn't just painful, it's transformative. It marks the death of blind idealism and the birth of strategic realism. The refugee realizes that his sincerity was seen as weakness, his devotion as desperation, his gestures as proof that he had no better options. And from that point on, everything changes. He no longer operates purely from emotion. He begins to study, to test, to experiment. His heart becomes a laboratory, and dating becomes a science. This shift from romantic refugee to strategic student answers our opening question. How does the woman who destroyed him make him irresistible to everyone else? Because she forces him into the next phase of transformation, the laboratory phase. Once the romantic refugee crosses the threshold of betrayal, he doesn't return to who he was. Something fundamental shifts. Love is no longer a blind leap of faith. It becomes an experiment. His heart, once an open diary, turns into a laboratory notebook. Every interaction is a test. Every conversation is data. Every rejection is a lesson written in permanent ink. He's not trying to impress women anymore. He's watching them. He notices things he once ignored. The delay before she replies. The way she laughs differently with certain men. The subtle shift in body language when she's interested versus when she's just being polite. He begins to realize that attraction doesn't follow the moral script he was taught. It's not kindness that guarantees desire. It's complexity. It's not effort that guarantees loyalty. It's mystery. And devotion, no matter how pure, doesn't guarantee a happy ending. Instead of pouring himself into one woman, he starts treating interactions as experiments. What happens when he pulls back instead of leaning in? What happens when he teases instead of complimenting? What happens when he keeps a little mystery instead of revealing everything too soon? Slowly, patterns emerge. He learns that women often respond more to playful tension than to predictable flattery. This laboratory phase is where true expertise begins to form. It's not about manipulation, it's about observation. He becomes a student of psychology without ever opening a textbook. His fieldwork is the real world. His professors are the women he meets. His lessons are the mistakes that once crushed him, but now fuel his curiosity. The most powerful part of this phase is emotional detachment. When he stops chasing validation, his confidence appears to rise. When he focuses on understanding behavior rather than proving his worth, he comes across as more interesting. When he treats attraction as a science rather than a personal referendum on his value, he stops fearing rejection. To women, this looks like natural confidence. In reality, it's controlled detachment born from survival. This is how the laboratory transforms a wounded man into a skilled one. Not overnight, not easily, but through repetition, analysis, and resilience. And as this transformation deepens, something remarkable happens to his emotional architecture. Want to understand the full transformation? Keep watching, because what happens next changes everything. And as this transformation deepens, something remarkable happens to his emotional architecture, what I call the scar tissue effect. Scar tissue is a strange thing. On the body, it's tougher than the skin it replaces. It may not be as flexible or sensitive, but it's harder to break. The same principle applies to the heart. When a man goes through enough heartbreak, he doesn't just heal and return to who he was. He develops emotional scar tissue, and that scar tissue changes how he shows up in love. From the outside, it looks like confidence. He no longer invests his entire sense of worth in whether one woman likes him or not. He doesn't crumble when she takes too long to reply, doesn't chase frantically when she pulls away, and doesn't mistake attention for affection. What women see is a man who seems calm, composed, and in control. What they don't see is that his indifference isn't natural, it's protection. This is what I call defensive mastery. He becomes skilled not because he was rewarded for good behavior, but because he had to build armor against disappointment. He sharpens his ability to read signals because missing them once cost him dearly. His mastery is born from survival. It's the same way a man who learns to swim after being thrown into deep water will often outlast someone who only trained in a safe pool. That scar tissue also creates something else: mysterious depth. A man who has been truly hurt carries weight in his presence. Women feel it, even if they can't explain it. He seems more layered, more complex, more intriguing than men who have never been through real heartbreak. Pain has given him access to emotional territory most men never touch. What makes it powerful is the paradox. His wounds made him both stronger and more guarded. He knows betrayal from the inside, so he won't be fooled as easily again. But he also knows love from the inside, so he can connect with emotions most men run from. To women, this balance feels rare. It's not false confidence, it's resilient strength. But this emotional scar tissue doesn't just create protection. It creates a unique form of perception that most men never develop. I call it emotional archaeology. One of the greatest advantages of a man who's been broken is this almost hypersensitive ability to pick up on things most men overlook. When you've been hurt deeply, you start to develop radar. You stop taking words at face value. You start noticing the pauses, the contradictions, the tone that doesn't match the content. This skill doesn't come from curiosity alone. It comes from necessity. A man who can't decode female psychology keeps getting blindsided by the same patterns. Each mistake costs him not just opportunities, but pieces of his self-worth. Eventually, the pain forces him to analyze. He rewinds old conversations in his head. He remembers the moment she pulled away, the subtle signs he ignored, the way her body language contradicted her words. Over time, this analysis hardens into instinct. He can now sense when a woman is testing him, when she's truly interested, and when she's simply enjoying attention with no intention of giving more. He learns the difference between what women believe they want and what actually sparks attraction. Women rarely encounter this level of understanding. Most men interact with them based on assumptions, wishful thinking, or blind projection. The emotional archaeologist doesn't do that. He listens differently. He watches differently. He responds not only to what she says, but to the layer beneath. The need she can't quite articulate, the fear she's hiding, or the curiosity she's hinting at. Emotional archaeology turns wounds into wisdom. It makes a man more complex, more intriguing, and more trustworthy in a way. Because a woman feels that he's not just reacting blindly, he's actually understanding. It's not guesswork, it's pattern recognition. This deep understanding naturally leads to another counterintuitive skill that emerges from heartbreak: strategic indifference. Perhaps the most counterintuitive lesson that comes from heartbreak is this art of caring, but not too much, of being invested, but never desperate. It's the ability to walk the fine line between interest and neediness, a balance that almost no man learns without first experiencing the pain of overinvesting. The romantic refugee knows this pain all too well. He remembers what it felt like to text first, text again, and then text once more, hoping for a reply that never came. Those memories aren't just scars, they are lessons. And the lesson is clear: neediness kills attraction. Women can sense it immediately. If you've ever been that person, texting repeatedly without getting a response, leave a comment. This story is yours. So he adapts. He learns that overinvestment destroys his chances, while balance increases them. Strategic indifference doesn't mean not caring. It means caring in a way that doesn't cost him his strength or dignity. He can enjoy her company without relying on her validation. He can pursue her without chasing her. This shift creates a paradox that women find magnetic. The less he needs her approval, the more she wants to give it. The less he chases, the more she feels pulled toward him. Why? Because neediness signals low value, while selective interest signals high value. But here's the key. This isn't fake. It isn't an act. Men who have truly been hurt don't have to pretend to be detached. They've learned, through trial and heartbreak, that survival requires it. Their indifference isn't performance, it's protection. And that authenticity is what makes it so powerful. It's not playing games, it's playing smart. Yet this protective indifference creates its own unique paradox when it comes to deeper connection: the vulnerability paradox. But there's one more change you haven't seen yet, one that's turning this whole journey upside down. One of the strangest transformations that heartbreak creates is how a man who has been wounded deeply becomes both more protected and more open at the same time. He carries a strength that comes from surviving pain, but also a depth that comes from truly feeling it. To women, this combination is rare and irresistible. Most men live on one extreme or the other. They are either too soft wearing their heart on their sleeve, craving constant reassurance, and collapsing when they don't get it, or they are too closed off, hiding behind walls so high that no one ever gets in. The romantic refugee sits somewhere in the middle. His past pain forced him to build boundaries, but it also gave him the capacity to connect on a level that untouched men can't reach. This is what makes him feel different. He understands heartbreak because he's lived through it. He knows betrayal because he's felt it in his bones, and because he's walked through that fire. He can talk about love, trust, and pain in a way that feels raw and real. Women sense this depth in conversation, in his presence, even in silence. But here's the paradox: while he can connect emotionally, he no longer depends on any single woman to define his worth. He can share, he can listen, he can open up, but he doesn't need saving. That balance creates what I call accessible depth. He gives a woman the experience of being with a man who is layered, soulful, and real, without demanding that she carry his emotional weight. It's not emotional unavailability, it's selective vulnerability. As he continues to interact with women through this new lens, another sophisticated skill begins to emerge: pattern recognition. After enough experiences, the romantic refugee begins to notice something powerful: patterns. He realizes that the situations he thought were random actually repeat themselves. Over time, these repetitions form what I call the pattern recognition matrix. It's an internal system that allows him to predict outcomes and adjust his behavior with remarkable accuracy. This matrix doesn't come from books or theories. It comes from exposure. He's dated enough women, been rejected enough times, and watched enough relationships play out to see cycles others miss. He can spot a rebound relationship almost instantly. He can tell when a woman is seeking validation versus when she's genuinely looking for connection. The matrix also allows him to tailor his approach. He understands that not every woman responds the same way. A woman who's guarded may need patience and humor. A woman who's playful may need teasing and energy. A woman who's serious may need directness and clarity. He adjusts not by pretending, but by reading her state and meeting her where she is. This adaptability is what separates him from men who rely on generic strategies. He's not reciting lines or following a script. He's listening, watching, and adjusting in real time. Women feel this difference immediately. It's not manipulation, it's adaptation. Want more content like this? Subscribe now, because your next breakthrough starts with the next video. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. All of these skills, the emotional archaeology, strategic indifference, vulnerability paradox, and pattern recognition, culminate in a level of mastery that creates its own trap. Here's where the story takes an ironic turn. After years of heartbreak, analysis, and rebuilding, the romantic refugee finally becomes the man everyone notices. He can generate attraction with ease. He rarely gets rejected. And even when he does, it barely touches him. From the outside, he looks like he's won the dating game. But inside, something else begins to happen. He steps into what I call the success trap. The success trap is when you've mastered attraction but lost touch with fulfillment. He knows how to get women interested, but many of those connections feel shallow. He can avoid rejection, but in protecting himself so well, he also avoids real intimacy. He can play the game and win, yet the victories feel empty. This trap becomes especially cruel when he meets a woman who could actually give him the love he once dreamed of. She's loyal, authentic, and willing to invest. But his defenses are so sharp that he doesn't believe her. He mistakes sincerity for strategy, affection for manipulation. In protecting himself from heartbreak, he accidentally blocks himself from healing. Some men never escape this stage. They become the emotionally unavailable men that future romantics will cry over. Others, however, find a way through. They learn what I call selective vulnerability, the ability to keep their defenses intact while lowering them for the right person. This brings us full circle to our opening paradox, how the woman who destroyed him makes him irresistible to every woman, and after. But now you understand the complete mechanism. The emotionally unavailable men that future romantics will cry over. Others, however, find a way through. They learn what I call selective vulnerability, the ability to keep their defenses intact while lowering them for the right person. It's not emotional unavailability, it's strategic protection. So here's the final truth. Every confident man you see, the one who walks into a room and instantly captures attention, the one who makes women lean in without effort, the one who seems untouchable, he wasn't always that man. He was once broken. He was once lost. He was once the boy who believed in love too much and paid the price for it. His confidence is not a gift. It's a scar. And that's why you should never mistake ease for luck. Behind every smooth interaction is a story of rejection. Behind every calm smile is a history of betrayal. Behind every display of strength is a wound that taught him to stand taller. But here's the part that matters for you. Pain doesn't have to destroy you. It can educate you. It can refine you. It can turn confusion into clarity and heartbreak into strategy. You don't need to envy the man who looks like he has it all figured out. You only need to understand that he once stood where you stand now. The difference is that he didn't let pain break him. He let it build him. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. And every confident man was once a broken boy who decided that hurt would be his teacher, not his grave. The question is not whether you'll be wounded in love, because you will. The question is whether you'll let that wound define you or transform you. This is why understanding these patterns matters. It's not about glorifying pain. It's not about excusing emotional unavailability. It's about seeing the hidden psychology that shapes attraction. When you realize that scar tissue can become strength, you stop fearing rejection and start learning from it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone changes everything. So if you recognize yourself in this story, if you've loved too hard, trusted too much, or given more than you got back, don't bury that pain. Use it. Let it sharpen your instincts. Let it build your resilience. Let it teach you the things no book or coach ever could. Because one day, someone will see the confidence you've built and think you were born with it. But you'll know the truth. You earned it. It's not natural talent. It's earned wisdom. If this resonates with you, if you see yourself in this transformation, leave a comment below. Your journey matters. And if you want to master the psychology of attraction, subscribe now. Because understanding yourself is the first step to understanding everyone else.